Hello, I'm so glad you could join us today for Safe Futures Light the Way breakfast. We're virtual today and we're here at the beautiful and historic Garde Arts Center. Well, better place to share a cup of coffee with you or a cup of tea if you prefer as we begin our program. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the co-chair of our board of directors, Laura Mooney. Laura has been with the board for 10 years and has served 8 of those years as president. And now as co-chair and president, along with Andrew Barker, I would love to introduce her. Laura, please.
Good morning, Melissa. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 11th Light the Way breakfast. As co-chair of the board of directors, it's my honor this morning to welcome you all, and on behalf of the rest of the board, our staff, and our volunteers. The Light the Way breakfast is a very important event in the Safe Futures calendar because it is our major fundraiser, but also it's an exciting opportunity for us to share with you the work that Safe Futures does. And I want to thank, first of all the people whose generosity have made this event possible this morning. To Jean and Steve Siegel and the beautiful historic Garde Theatre for their generous hospitality. And to our sponsors, Essential Wealth, which has been a long-time supporter of our agency. And from other sponsors, from You Flowers, Wallace Smith and Palmer PC, Sumner and Sumner Insurance, and Pin Perfect Commercial Cleaning Services. We are very grateful for your support. It's disappointing that we can't do what we normally do at our breakfast because we were usually meeting you around the table, exchanging news and stories, greeting our donors, and answering all your questions. And as this is our first virtual breakfast, this is a very new experience for us. But I hope that even though you're at home drinking your tea or coffee, as Melissa said, that you will feel part of our Safe Futures family. And it is this togetherness that is an important part of our breakfast, because along with the collaboration with our community neighbors, it provides the resources that we need to light the way. That is why we call it the Light the Way breakfast, that opens the door forward to our adults and children impacted by domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and trafficking. So it's been nearly 2 years since our last breakfast because of the impact of the COVID. How have our staff been able to provide the care and services that an essential agency to our clients in this incredibly challenging environment? Remember, just think back a minute to your own experiences during COVID, and remember that sort of sense of isolation and anxiety that we all had. And now reimagine that experience, but with the distractions and difficulties of domestic violence. And this was very real for many people because domestic violence, for example, increased by 35% in Connecticut. And this alone would have been an extraordinary challenge for Safe Futures under normal circumstances, let alone with the constraints of COVID. But yet we were able to house victims with an increase in hotel costs of nearly 800%, counsel and support them while doing social distancing. And as an essential crisis agency, we managed to remain open and never lost sight of our mission. And that is due to the incredible, amazing, hardworking, and very creative staff and our supportive board for successfully keeping our doors open throughout the pandemic. This breakfast has one very special moment, and it is always the most moving and incredible experience for me, even though I've been board chairman for many years, which is when we give voice to our survivors who can speak from a safe place about their experiences, from the moment of decision to leave their abuser and the arduous journey as they transition with hope and resiliency. So the work we have accomplished this last year and the goals we've established for our future development require a strong visionary leadership. And for that, we thank our Executive Director, Catherine Varano, who I'd like to introduce to you now. Catherine.
Thank you, Laura, and welcome everyone. Today, as we embark on our 45th anniversary for Safe Futures, we are committed now more than ever to our mission to save lives, restore hope, and change the future to those impacted by domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and trafficking in the 21 towns and cities we cover in southeastern Connecticut. In the 27 years I have been with Safe Futures, I often think of our founders who pioneered at a time in the 70s when there weren't even any domestic violence laws. That did not stop them. They never lost sight of their vision. They started a hotline and then an emergency shelter for victims fleeing abuse. They knew they had to make a difference for the future. And look where we are today, offering programs such as our 24-hour hotlines, our Genesis House emergency shelter, our Phoenix House transitional living program, and 5 other housing programs, our 2 walk-in counseling offices, our court support staff in 2 courts, our law enforcement advocate, our lethality assessment program, prevention educators, our therapy pets, Camp Hope, and our Voices Committee of Survivors guiding us, and so much more. All of Safe Futures services are free and confidential, but we are not done. Our mission statement: saving lives, removing barriers to welcome all victims of abuse, working with our law enforcement partners on lethality assessment tools for immediate connectivity to services, accepting pets in our shelters and residential programs, handicap ramps and kitchens and bathrooms, so making us fully accessible, and the redesign of our webpage to be ADA compliant and equity inclusive so everyone has access to our services. Our mission: restoring hope, offering ongoing career and education opportunities to survivors, support groups to adults, children, and students, and hope-centered programs like High Hopes and Camp Hope, and Pathways for Children with our community and national partners to build trust and resiliency and restore and maintain hope. Our mission: changing the future. Imagine a place where victims come first and professionals come together. A place where a victim only has to tell their story one time. Following the national model of the Family Justice Center, partners are co-located, offering wraparound services to victims under one roof in a trauma-informed manner. Last year, Safe Futures served over 7,000 victims. And all that number has increased each year. We must do more. The 2020 census for southeastern Connecticut tells us there are 263 people living in our service area. We know the national statistic is 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men are victims of physical domestic violence. And research is showing us that number is increasing due to the pandemic. With those statistics, we should be serving close to 30,000 victims. But how can we do that? We have been so fortunate. Last year, the Clark Keenan family of Walden Chemical donated an office building to Safe Futures to be sold for profit. We also received a very generous legacy gift and bequest from a local resident, Ardeth Mortensen. This generosity allowed us to purchase a piece of property in a central location in southeastern Connecticut to build the Center for Safe Futures. With commitments from multiple partners to include child welfare agencies, law enforcement, state's attorney, Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence, agencies that serve people with disabilities, medical professionals, mental health and substance abuse providers, education, childcare, our national partner, the Alliance for Hope International. Our vision is clear and our vision is shared. partners strategically working together to eliminate domestic violence so we are not here for another 45 years. You're going to have a glimpse of a survivor's 3-year journey with Safe Futures. Rachel and her 3 daughters are very dear to all of us, whether you're staff, volunteers, or a community partner who worked with them. They touched our hearts. You will see local and national agencies collaborate with Safe Futures to offer hope and resiliency, and hear from our national expert on the science of hope. And now, I would like to introduce our partner, John Hamilton from the Alliance for Hope International Family Justice Centers and the director of Camp Hope America.
What an honor it is to be here this morning on behalf of Alliance for Hope International. It's great to be with all of you. Our mission for Camp Hope America, simply put, is to provide, to help kids who have been exposed to trauma find pathways to hope and healing. And we know that that's a mission that we can't achieve by ourselves. It requires us to work with creative visionaries, innovative thinkers, and that is the treat that it is to be here today, is because we are in a space where we're surrounded by an organization and community partners that are saying we believe in a brighter future for our world. And there's ways in which we can do that. A few years ago, I had the honor of sitting with a couple of kids. We were at one of our year-round Pathways events, as Camp Hope America is a year-round program with a specific emphasis on a unique experience at camp where we get to offer the science of hope in a supportive framework and environment to young people who have been exposed to domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault. And I was with 2 young boys as we were at a holiday event, and the 2 of them just a couple months before that had been at camp, sitting on the cabin floor, reading through our curriculum, learning about the science of hope. And as these 2 boys connected, I watched as their 2 caregivers were sitting off to the side, these 2 mothers, watching and saying, "Hey, so your son went to camp," and "Yeah, and yours was," and they were in the same cabin. And unbeknownst to them at the time, the 2 of them did not know that they lived in the same neighborhood and had navigated the same journey. But as a result of the Family Justice Center framework, which was started in 2003 by our founder of Camp Hope America and Alliance for Hope International, our president, Casey Gwynn, and our CEO, Gail Strack, this movement has continued to grow. The Family Justice Center framework, which is the cornerstone, I think, of the future of where we can look in communities for a future without violence, where violence will fade and hope will be given. Hope will be given because organizations such as Safe Futures are going to be focused on their goals. And these 2 mothers that were sitting in this spot recognize that their 2 kids' experience as a result of their time at Camp Hope America not only brought them together in a supportive way, but it allowed them all, these 2 families, to now engage in such a way where they felt that they were empowered to believe that the future for their 2 families could be something different than what it had been before. See, Camp Hope America, Family Justice Centers, these community service-based programs are the path to a brighter future. And for us, we recognize that as Camp Hope is one piece of that, we are growing. In our map you can see here, we are growing to a point where we're working with 41 organizations around the country in 21 states. This summer, 27 different organized overnight camping sessions will take place in 20 different states. I've already been to a few of them. And next week, I get to join Safe Futures as they here in Connecticut will be a part of working to bring kids this hope-filled experience. And the beauty of where we're at with Safe Futures is it's not only for Southeastern Connecticut. It's for Connecticut as a whole, and even more so across New England. I just moved with my 4 daughters back to New Hampshire because I believe so much in this work, and I want it to shape the future of this region of the country. See, At this point in time, we know that we have two organizations that'll be coming from other parts of New England to learn from the work that Safe Futures is doing, from the path that they are on to help kids, not just kids, but their entire family be able to move forward. And the way they're going to move forward is with hope. See, with hope, we will move forward. Hope is simply, as we look at it from our definition that we've looked at it for kids, is believing in yourself, believing in others, and believing in your dreams. See, those two boys have dreams for a brighter future because now their mothers are receiving ongoing services. They return for services and they're more inclined to do so because the kids are having a positive experience. See, when we wrap the whole family in care, we're able to find these dynamic solutions. The science of hope, though, that we work with the Hope Research Center out of Oklahoma University. If you did not know it at this point in time, you can measure someone's hope in their life. You can measure it. We measure it in every single child that we are working with. The kids from Safe Futures that will go away to camp this summer, we will be measuring it in them to see how can we increase that, along with resilience, along with grit and gratitude and zest, these character traits, these values that we place so much in, to see where we can lead to a brighter future for these kids. The scientific definition of hope is that you believe that the future can be brighter than the past, and you have the power to make that so. And the way in which you do that is by setting goals. See, when we look at the continuum of hope, we can see that there's this understanding that hope is up at the top. And yes, rage and anger, which is next, that can actually fuel us to hope. But it's when we get to despair or cynicism, and we continue to try and reach our goals, maybe without support, without a clear path. Obstacles come up in our way, and that's when we become apathetic. We do not want to be apathetic people. We do not want to be cynical people. We do not want to be people that are just resting in despair. We want to be individuals that are setting goals, finding viable pathways, and working with others to achieve those goals. See, that's the science of hope. It's a belief. It rests in a belief. And we are seeing that belief in the 3,500 plus kids that we're working with across the country, which is just barely scratching the surface. You heard Kathy talk about the significance within your community, the significance of the number of unreached kids, and the need for Family Justice Center framework to be a part of that solution, for Camp Hope to be a part of that solution for your community, the same way that it needs to be for the 10 million plus kids that are exposed to domestic violence each year. See, we can nurture hope, not only in children, but in our lives as well. The loss of motivation, the question around why should we continue to pursue the things that we are setting out to do? We can't lose focus on the goals. And we need to recognize that we have the support of others to help motivate us on those pathways to achieve those goals. Maybe another way that I could put this is if we move forward, there's an image of this young man, Diego. Diego is someone that I've been mentoring. He was in the first picture with our mission, mentored 6 boys in San Diego, and Diego is one of those. And Diego, about a little over a year ago, reached out to me and said, I just had applied to be able to go to a boarding school back in the Northeast. And it was 2020. The pandemic had just ensued. Things were being canceled left and right. And Diego found out that he did not get into school. Yesterday, I talked to Diego because I asked him if I could share his story and a bit of the journey that he's been on, the goals that he's been pursuing, the dreams that he's been after, those that have supported him along the way, and the role that Camp Hope played in that dream. See, Diego got to camp last summer where we ran in the San Bernardino National Forest, where you can see he's got his hand out and he's envisioning a future. This picture was taken after we spent 3 hours on a rock wall. Diego had said at the start of camp and last spring that he was not going to apply to any more boarding schools after he got denied. His dream had been robbed, just as he had been robbed of hope when he was in a situation with his mother where domestic violence entered his home and it paralyzed his family. But the Family Justice Center, But Camp Hope said there's a different path forward for you. See, for Diego, as a young man, we spent 3 hours on that rock wall, and he believed that there was a brighter future when he came down. He said, John, I'm going to reapply. I'm going to apply to a boarding school. And not only did Diego apply to one, he doubled down, maybe tripled down. He applied to 4 different boarding schools, asked if I could be a reference and say all of the positive things about him that I had said while we were at camp. And gosh, on March 10th, when Diego texted me and said, John, I've got some news to share with you, I was like, is today the day that you find out? This past March, he texted me and said, in the news that I have to share, I got into all 4 schools. I said, unreal. I called Diego right then and I said, Diego, tell me, where are you going? What are you doing? He said, John, I got into Phillips Exeter Academy in New Hampshire. And I'm going to go to boarding school in New Hampshire. And I said, Diego, you wouldn't believe it. I said, I just made a decision. My family and I are moving to New Hampshire because I believe that the work of Camp Hope America and family justice centers needs to shape the future of New England, the community that shaped me when I was a child growing up in the Northeast. I want to come back and shape it. And Diego said, can I be the first camper in New Hampshire? I said, you got it. Yes, you can be. See, but next week, while I'm at Camp Hope with Safe Futures here in Connecticut, we will have an organization from New Hampshire that is coming to learn from the work that Safe Futures is doing, the way they're leading the charge, to follow their example. See, Diego is going to be able to have a chance to experience camp because of Safe Futures' work, because they're saying yes and others will follow. The movement is growing. We just need more people to believe that it matters. So my challenge to you this morning is to believe that each and every single one of you matter. In the science of hope, for you to set goals, to continue to set goals for yourself, to help set goals and help Safe Futures achieve the dreams and the mission to save lives, to restore hope, and to change the future. See, we want a brighter future, and we believe with your help it's going to be possible. As you listen to the video that's about to play, I want you to hear where this language around the science of hope, viable pathways, setting goals, having a plan, being motivated by supportive people for 3 years in the midst of Rachel's story. That is not something that would have been done alone. It's not something that would have been accomplished just in a moment's time. The path to healing is a journey. It's a journey that requires people such as yourselves to believe. It's a journey that requires people and organizations and communities that are coming together the way in which Safe Futures is bringing organizations and a community together to believe that one survivor at a time, one voice at a time, we will all believe that our future can be brighter than our past.
I was in the DCF office and they had out the wheel and I could identify all the signs of abuse. And they made an appointment with Michelle and I sat there with her. And again, I looked at that wheel and I could identify all of them. The first time I was pushed down and hit my head at a storage locker. That restraining order was denied. I told the judge just exactly what had happened, that I had suffered from financial abuse because of his gambling, but then the abuse got worse. He would unplug the phone. The 2 older kids were in school, so it was just the baby and the 2 of us. It's difficult to leave because you're told that you're not going to go and you're not going to get anywhere. Nobody's going to believe you. He's going to take the kids, that he could kill me and hide my body and nobody would find it. And when we did have an apartment, I was stuck in the house for days without a way to even leave. He would fight with me in front of my family, tell me that I was weak, that I was no good, I was a whore, I was a bitch. I was all kinds of nasty things. We were in the hotel and he lifted me up by my neck. And because I wasn't giving him what he wanted, he proceeded to take my clothes off. And at the time, I would say that he was taking advantage of me, but now I know that advantage is not the right word. He was raping me. If I hadn't come to Safe Futures, I believe that I definitely would be not here. I definitely believe that I would be gone. When I was at shelter, we had to come up with goals on how we were going to move on. I always stayed on top of my goals. I always looked to stay and look towards the future. The services were always there for me. There's the counseling if you just need to talk, you know. Like, I'm always in contact with Nusa, Marissa, through text, because I always have questions. The advocates at court, that's where I get scared the most, because I get intimidated very easily. So just having her sit there next to me meant the world. I never became aware until I went through this whole process. And I think my time at the Phoenix House was when I really became aware, because it was easier for me to reflect. And then once I started doing that, then I learned really what I had been through. My oldest daughter, Brianna, was very, very troubled. She's now in another counseling group, which she's excelling in. My middle daughter, Nevaeh, she has completed one session of the trauma counseling, and now she's on to the second. On Tuesday nights, they had kids' night down in the conference room in the Phoenix House. They did field trips with them. The trip to the camp itself, they still talk about. They have their drums that I have to say drive mommy crazy. They talk about the food that they had there. I have to say that they were a little leery of going at first. I had to pry Nevaeh off from me to leave the parking lot when I was leaving her at first. But then when I came to pick up, Christine was like, Nevaeh really enjoyed herself. And then I heard about it all the way back home. Luna is the therapeutic dog. Luna not only resided with us at the Genesis house, she followed us to the Phoenix House, where she had a very, very great impact with us. Having Luna definitely made things easier, because when they came home from school, daycare, you could see that all their worries and cares just went away. It meant all the world. It made them more comfortable than Kathy will ever know. High Hopes is one of the greatest highlights of my children's lives. It is incredible. It's a therapeutic horse farm, and Maris, one of the volunteers there, was absolutely wonderful with my children. They learned how to groom the horses, they learned how to ride, they learned all kinds of stuff about horses. They met somebody outside a family that they could really, really grow to love, because when I say that they love her, they really, really love her. They loved going to see her every single week. The future is looking brighter and better. I just landed my first medical assistant, medical administrative job. The girls are really thriving. I have the job, I have the car, I have the house. I'm slowly erasing the memories of him. No longer drive the car that he rode in. I have the education. I live in a totally different new town. I just need to be free. I feel great. I feel great. Thank you, Safe Futures, for everything you do for me. You totally have no idea how grateful I am.
Rachel, you and your children are beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story. It takes great courage to do what you did today. One thing almost all people can agree on is that feeling safe and secure is fundamental to our well-being. Feeling inner safety means feeling we are safe from physical and mental harm. It provides a sense of calm and control over ourselves and our environment. While we can all feel unsafe at times, being in a speeding car perhaps, or experiencing severe weather, we know there is usually a quick end to our uneasy feeling. Imagine, however, feeling unsafe night and day in your own home. Putting your head down on your pillow at night, crying yourself to sleep. How about waking up in the morning and not knowing what the person who says they love you is going to do to you that day? Imagine living in fear every single day. Imagine being isolated from family and friends. Imagine not having anyone to talk to out of fear. Imagine the people living in fear are our family members, our friends, our coworkers, and our neighbors, because they are. Imagine if there was no one there to help. Thankfully, they're Safe Futures. I am Greg Massad, Treasurer of the Board of Directors for Safe Futures, and I am here today to ask that you help financially sustain Safe Futures so there will always be someone there to help. If you can follow the text instructions on the screen, during this talk, you can help sustain Safe Futures. While our name is Safe Futures, we are involved with the past, present, and future. And saving lives, restoring hope, and changing the future is not just a slogan. It's more than a slogan, it's what we do. Because Safe Futures raises awareness of domestic violence, women, men, and children learn about unsafe relationships so they can distance themselves from an unsafe past. As a result of our awareness campaigns, the Safe Futures hotline saves lives by handling over 7,000 calls from victims of acute domestic violence issues last year alone, giving emergency assistance to those in immediate need. You heard Rachel just moments ago tell us she doesn't know if she would still be here if she hadn't made that call to Safe Futures. From the Genesis House Emergency Shelter and assistance with restraining orders and support through the court process. From our gift card program providing our clients Safe Futures restores hope by providing a safe present and an immediate stable environment for our clients. Our agency then provides the counseling, the job training, the emotional support, and housing through the Flora O'Neill and Katie Blair houses to help reignite that flame of hope within our clients that had once been extinguished, which changes the future for our clients. And just as important as helping Rachel get back on her feet full of hope, Safe Futures takes care of the children who suffer just as much from the fear of domestic violence. Because you see, a mind full of fear has no room for hopes and dreams. Rachel tells such a heartwarming story of her beautiful girls as a and High Hopes House Horse Farm, and because they no longer live in fear. In short, Safe Futures was able to give Rachel and her children all the tools and the support they needed for her and her children to escape her past and have a safe future. I initially became involved with Safe Futures when I was asked by Catherine Verano to assist on the board of directors. Frankly, I didn't know a whole lot about Safe Futures at the time, but I don't see an end to my involvement. I immediately became impressed with the services provided, the resources offered, and the facilities available. But as taken as I was with all of that, I was so incredibly impressed by the people of Safe Futures, who make up Safe Futures, and with the passion that they have for helping the victims of domestic violence. I have been involved with many organizations over many years, and I've never seen anything like it. Our executive, a leader who shows a commitment to Safe Futures, admirable beyond words. On the instructions at the bottom of the screen, but we'll get to that later. As a result, there are so many success stories like Rachel. And while Rachel's story has a happy ending, the sad part is that she had to endure what she did for so long. And that there are thousands of Rachels who are calling Safe Futures on a daily basis right here in Southeastern Connecticut. I, along with my wife, Kristen, who is here with me today, plan on doing everything we can for Safe Futures for as long as we can. Presently, I am the treasurer of the board of directors, chairman of the finance committee, and chairman of the site selection and building committee for the new Family Justice Center. My wife and I, along with my firm, sponsor the golf tournament, the annual 4K walk. We participate in the gift card program, and we assist with holiday gifts for the children in the residential programs. We have also hosted events at our home to raise awareness. Now, I don't stand here in front of you today to tell you what we do for Safe Futures for any reason other than I don't ask people to do something that I wouldn't do myself. It is always a tough thing to ask people for money. I don't like it, and I never have. But here I am because I am that proud of Safe Futures and what it does. And I'm asking you to join my wife and I as Polaris donors. After donating to many organizations over the years, we have decided that Safe Futures will be the main beneficiary of what we can give. It is the organization that has become our favorite. As treasurer, I know that every dollar we give is in effect multiplied by the effort the people at Safe Futures put into their work. They make real changes in the lives of real people locally. And the changes are permanent. When you see families like Rachel and Nevaeh and Brianna and Alana go from where they were to where they are now, it can do nothing but put a smile on your face and a warmth in your heart. If you are a Polaris donor already, thank you. I would ask you please consider increasing your yearly pledge, extending the amount of years on your pledge, or to give a one-time extra donation in honor of the Safe Future employees who give their extra every day. If you're not a Polaris donor, please consider joining us as one by pledging $1,000 for each of the next 5 years. It initially may seem like a lot, but consider this. It amounts to $2.79 a day, the price of a cup of coffee. Please text HOPE to the number that has been on the screen. You will immediately be directed to our giving page where you can become a Polaris donor, provide an extra donation, extend your pledge, and review other levels of giving. There is a saying that if you want to touch the past, touch a rock. If you want to touch the present, touch a flower. If you want to touch the future, touch a life. What can be more rewarding than touching someone's life by making someone feel safe, safe from their past, safe in their home, safe with their children, safe going to work, and safe in their future. Thank you for all you have done in the past and for what you will do for Safe Futures today. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg and Kristen, all of our speakers today, and especially Rachel and her family for sharing your journey with us. As I leave you today, I'd like to remind you that we are proud at Safe Futures to serve all, no matter how you identify. We are here for you. You heard the word hope a lot today, and I'm going to do one more ask of you, in that you put hope in your text box in your cell phone and give whatever your heart can give. We're so appreciative for all the support from all the people that work with us every day to all of you. If you or anyone you know needs help, please call our confidential 24-hour hotline at 701-6001. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it's confidential. You do not have to identify. We are here for you. We want to listen. Also consider calling Safe Connect, our statewide hotline, which is also available at 888-774-2900. Much gratitude to all of you for supporting this event and lighting the way, so hope can enter the lives of those we serve. From the Garde Arts Center and from our hearts, thank you.